Hi, my name is Fabio, and this is my channel. Welcome to Non-Maskable Interrupt. I decided to create this channel because I wanted to share more about the things that I really love, which are computers, electronics, and programming in general. So, okay, it all started when I was still a kid, about 10 years old-ish. So I wanted an optics kit for my birthday, but my dad gave me an electronics lab kit instead. So it was unexpected, but at the same time very interesting. So I started to learn more about electronics and electricity. But the reality is that when I was a kid, since I was a kid, I always had this passion to understand how things worked and what was inside, the video game, or what was inside the toys that I was playing. So I wanted to understand how they worked. So the that electronics lab kit helped me understand some of that, of course, but not all of that. So the natural next step was to learn more about computers. So a few years later, I think I was about 12, my dad gave me my first personal computer. It was a CP400 Color 2. That is a Brazilian clone of the TRS-80 Color Computer 2. That is an 8-bit machine. It had the Motorola 6809E microprocessor. It was a really nice machine, um, and it had BASIC. So the reality is, when you turned those machines on, they didn't do much. So usually they would land on the BASIC prompt, and you would either have to type a program or load something or run a game from a cartridge, for example. But I only had, I think, one cartridge, and I got bored pretty quickly. So the other option, like, okay, what can I do with this basic prompt? So machines at that time, they would come with a manual. The manual for that CP400 was reasonably good. Now that I am having access to other manuals here, like the Commodore 64, I can see how much better the Commodore 64 manual is. But at that time, the manual was good enough. I learned BASIC from it. Um, at that time, I didn't have a floppy drive, so they were really expensive when we didn't we couldn't afford it. So I would store the programs that I wrote on an audio cassette, which was not very reliable, but that's all I had. Yeah, so I learned a lot. I spent a few years playing with BASIC on that machine, I guess, and had a lot of fun. So a few years later, that is around 1991, I guess, I got my first IBM PC compatible machine. That was an Itautec IS30 Plus 2. It was a clone of an IBM XT. It had a NAC V30 CPU, which was a NAC Intel 8086 compatible microprocessor. It was faster, and it was that machine, to be honest, was really well built. I recall that it had it was the first time I saw, I think what was that called? It was a programmable array inside the on the motherboard. So that was the first time I saw something like that. Nowadays, I know that this was like an ASIC or something that they designed, but it was the first time I saw something like that, and it was pretty cool. Around um, yeah, around that time, but honestly, a few years later, I think I started the electronics technician program in 1989. Yeah, so that is like 2 years after I started on that program. So in 89, I started attending this electronics technician program. Um, the school was named CFET PR, and when I joined that technical high school, I already had Steve Ciarcia's Build Your Own Z80 Computer. So he wrote this book, and I made my dad buy me a copy. It was like a version printed in Brazil, and I wanted to build my own Z80, right? So when I started attending that school or that program, I already knew a lot about the Z80. So I knew stuff about electronics, and I knew about digital electronics. It was really interesting. I never built that machine, to be fair. I think honestly I was too young and naive. It was very complex what I was trying to achieve, but I can tell you that at the very least I wrote Z80 assembler, right? So yeah, maybe it's good to clarify some things here. Brazil at that time, we had a very closed economy, at least when it touched IT, right? So Brazil had a very protectionist policy that prevented importing, computers. So the idea was that they wanted to help local industry to grow and thrive. So the, importing machines like this was not allowed. What really happened was that in most cases, these companies in Brazil, they just cloned existing machines. So we ended up having clones of Apples, of Tandys, of Sinclairs, IBM PCs, and so on, right? At that time, also, there was no internet, so I didn't have access to software. So that is one reason I ended up having to write my own Z80 assembler. Anyway, yeah. From that machine, from that IS30, I moved later to a 386DX. I think it was 40 megahertz. Then a 486DX2, 66 megahertz, I guess, and so on. And in terms of programming languages, I started with BASIC. Then on the PC, I had access to Turbo Basic. Then when I had access to Windows, I learned Delphi, which was Pascal. Oh, I think I learned Turbo Pascal on DOS. Yeah. On DOS, I learned Turbo Pascal. Then when I got access to Windows, I learned Delphi, which was Object Pascal. And then Turbo C and so on. Now, what can you expect from my videos? Well, as you can see, I'm not a young guy, so I really like computer history. So I think that it's important for us to understand the past, understand how things were done in the past, in order for us to understand how we ended up here and maybe where are we going in the future. So this is one thing that I'm planning to cover here. Since I moved to Canada about 6 years ago, not only my wife, myself, and a dog and a cat, we moved to Canada 6 years ago. We started our lives from scratch. So now my life is a little bit more stable. So and I am affording now to buy stuff that I always dreamed of. So one of the things that I wanted to buy and I got one is a Mr. FPGA. So that is an FPGA board. It's an Altera or Intel D10 Nano that can run retro computer cores on the FPGA. So that is pretty cool. So this is something that we for sure are gonna cover in this channel. You know, FPGAs, retro machines. Now I am able to buy some of these machines as long as I find something that is affordable, because right now the prices are really insane. So I want to cover these older machines. We might have to fix them. For sure, we're going to program them. We're going to talk about them, maybe extend them, improve them. I started working on improvement for the Commodore 64 power supply. For sure, we're going to cover that here. We're going to talk embedded systems. We're going to talk like from Arduinos to embedded Linux, from 8-bit MCUs to 64-bit MPUs. Maybe we might even build that 8-bit machine that I always wanted to build. Who knows? So that's it. I hope you enjoy these videos. I hope you like the content, and if you do, please subscribe to get notifications when I publish new stuff. And that's it. Thank you so much, and see you next time.